Scheherazade Stories. Tonight's story is about watching and being watched. No one reported the first crime. That was the problem. The call didn't come in. No neighbor complained. No patrol flagged anything unusual. The city behaved as if nothing had happened at all. Except one streetlight was missing. Not broken, not turned off, missing. I noticed it on my way home, driving through District 7, a part of the city most people only remembered when they needed to cut travel time. Long blocks, identical buildings, too quiet for how many people supposedly live there. The light poles stood there, bolted into the sidewalk, wires exposed, shadow perfectly shaped where light should have been. A gap. I stopped the car. No caution tape, no maintenance notice. No scorch marks, just absence, clean and intentional. The next morning, I checked municipal maintenance logs. No work orders, no outage reports, no record that the light had ever existed. That was when I opened a personal notebook, because systems forget, paper remembers. By Thursday, 3 more streetlights were gone. Same district, same pattern, same clean removal. Still no reports. I went door to door. People answered politely, calm, slightly distracted. "Have you noticed anything unusual on your street?" I asked. "No," they said. "No," they repeated. "No," again, until one man hesitated. "Unusual like quieter?" he asked. "What do you mean?" I said. He frowned. "I don't hear the light anymore." The sentence didn't make sense. Lights don't make sound. But he wasn't wrong. Something had stopped humming. I went back at night. District 7 felt dimmer than the rest of the city, even where lights still stood. Sound behaved strangely. Footsteps didn't echo properly. Cars passed without the usual hiss of tires on asphalt. I reached the corner where the first light had vanished. A woman stood beneath it. She looked up when I approached, startled. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "I work missing persons. This area doesn't report." She laughed quietly. "That's because reports don't stay filed." "What do you mean?" I asked. She glanced around, then lowered her voice. "Things go missing here first. Then people stop noticing they're gone." "Who?" I asked. She met my eyes. "Everyone," she said. I felt the weight of that word. "What happened to the lights?" I asked. She shook her head. "That's how it starts. Infrastructure, noise, paperwork." "And then?" I pressed. "Then they move to people who don't generate complaints. The elderly, the isolated, the undocumented." My phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You're standing in an unregistered zone." I showed her the screen. Her face went pale. "They noticed you already," she whispered. "Who?" I asked. She stepped back into the shadow where the light should have been. "The ones who make sure this district never files reports." And then she was gone. Not walked away. Gone. I stood alone on the corner, realizing something far worse than missing streetlights. District 7 wasn't being ignored. It was being contained. And now that I'd noticed the gap, I was part of it. I didn't write the encounter down right away. That was a mistake. By the time I reached home, the details had already softened around the edges. The woman's face, the exact place where she'd stood, even the feeling of certainty I'd had when she said, "everyone." That scared me enough to open the notebook. I wrote fast, messy, no structure. District 7, missing lights, missing sound, woman under the gap. Reports don't stay filed. The pen dug into the paper hard enough to tear it. The next morning, District 7 didn't appear on my route map. I thought it was a glitch. Zoomed out, zoomed back in. District 6, District 8. 7 was gone. I checked the city's zoning database. Same thing. There had never been a District 7. I sat back, pulse climbing. Cities don't lose districts, not quietly, not without someone screaming about taxes, representation, school zones. Unless the screaming never gets recorded. I went to city archives, not records, archives, the place where old decisions went to age until no one remembered why they'd been made. The archivist was a thin man with careful hands and eyes that flicked to the ceiling whenever he thought too long. I'm looking for historical zoning changes, I said, specifically District 7. He typed slowly, too slowly. There are 6 districts, he said. There were 7, I replied. He paused. I'm sorry, he said. That file isn't accessible. Why? I asked. He swallowed. Because it doesn't have an address. That made no sense. Files always had addresses, unless they weren't meant to be retrieved. I leaned forward. Show me the index. He hesitated, then nodded. Just don't ask me how to find it again. The index wasn't alphabetical. It wasn't chronological either. It was organized by complaint volume. High complaint areas had thick folders, tabs, cross-references. Low complaint areas had thin ones. At the very bottom was a section labeled 0 report zones. Inside, one folder, unlabeled. Inside that folder were maps, old ones, hand-drawn corrections in the margins, entire blocks shaded out, then redrawn elsewhere. District 7 hadn't been erased. It had been redistributed, its boundaries folded inward, streets reassigned, buildings absorbed into adjacent districts like nothing had ever been there. Why? I asked quietly. The archivist didn't answer. He just pointed to a stamped note on the last page. Report density below actionable threshold. Administrative consolidation approved. Approved by who? I asked. He shook his head. That's the part that never stays written. As I closed the folder, something slipped out. A photograph. Black and white. Old. A street in District 7. Streetlights on. People visible. A banner hanging from a building that read, Community Meeting. Report to be filed. The date on the back was 23 years ago. I felt cold. That night, I went back. Not by map, by memory. District 7 was harder to find now. Streets bent subtly away from it. Signs pointed just a little off. GPS lagged. But the gaps were still there. Missing lights. Missing sound. I followed one of the darker blocks until I reached a building I didn't recognize. No number, no mailbox, no posted notices. The door was unlocked. Inside, rows of filing cabinets stretched into darkness, not labeled by year, not by crime, by location, and every drawer in the center aisle bore the same etched marking, a small square, inside it, a 0. Footsteps echoed behind me. You really shouldn't keep notes, a voice said calmly. I turned. The woman from the streetlight stood in the doorway. She looked relieved. You found the archive. That means you still remember. Remember what? I asked. That this place exists, she replied. Most people forget by the second visit. I gestured to the cabinets. What is this? She walked past me, running her fingers along the metal. Every report ever filed in District 7, she said, before they learned how to stop them from staying filed. And the people? I asked. She stopped. They're still here, she said, just administratively silent. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. You are accessing non-actionable material. I showed her the screen. She smiled without humor. They don't like witnesses. They prefer statistics. A drawer slid open on its own. Inside were files, fresh ones, dated this week, names I recognized, neighbors I'd spoken to, and one folder placed carefully at the front, labeled with my name. The woman met my eyes. "Once they file you here," she said, "no one will ever report you missing." I swallowed. "Then we make noise," I said. She nodded slowly. "That's the one thing they can't consolidate." Above us, somewhere in the city, a siren wailed. It cut off mid-sound. And for the first time, District 7 felt like it was holding its breath. The first report we tried to remove was a noise complaint. It sounded harmless, almost laughable. A woman on Pine Street had reported a persistent hum outside her building, not loud, not disruptive, just constant enough to make sleep feel optional. The kind of thing most cities logged, filed, and forgot. Here, it had been absorbed. "Start small," the woman said. "If the system notices resistance too fast, it tightens." "What happens when it tightens?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. She pulled open a drawer instead. Inside were folders marked "Resolution Achieved." Each contained a single page, no dates, no outcomes, just a short line typed neatly. Subject adjusted. "Adjusted how?" I asked. She closed the drawer. "Enough." We took the noise complaint upstairs, not physically, digitally. The archive had an old terminal, disconnected from the main network. It still printed, still stored data locally. It didn't talk back. I typed slowly. Location, description, time. When I hit save, the machine hesitated, then printed a receipt. Actual paper, warm to the touch. The woman's eyes widened. "They don't like that," she whispered. Above us, the lights flickered. Somewhere, a system recalculated. We left the archive with the receipt folded carefully into my notebook. As soon as we stepped outside, I felt it. A subtle pressure, like walking against a current. People glanced at us longer than normal. Conversations paused mid-sentence. The city was noticing the noise. At the precinct, the report didn't show up in the system, but something else did. A flagged anomaly. No description, no file, just a blinking marker on the map where District 7 used to be. My supervisor called me in. "You're creating artifacts," she said flatly. "Reports," I corrected. She shook her head. "That area doesn't generate them." "People do," I said. She leaned back. "You don't understand what you're interfering with." "Then explain it," I said. She didn't. She just slid a folder across the desk. Inside was a city council memo from 23 years ago. Budget crisis, staffing shortages, rising complaint volume. One paragraph was highlighted. Pilot consolidation of low report districts to preserve system responsiveness. "They cut us out," I said quietly. "They optimized," she replied. "They found a way to make silence official." "And the people?" I asked. She looked away. "They learned to stop complaining." That night, the woman from the archive brought me to a community meeting. Not advertised, no flyers, no calendar invites, just word of mouth. It took place in a basement under a grocery store that no longer had a sign. 20 people sat in folding chairs, old, young, families, workers, all from District 7. They spoke carefully at first, then faster. Stories overlapped, lights that vanished, buses that stopped coming, emergency calls that rang forever. "We thought it was us," one man said, "that we were doing something wrong." "No, they just stopped listening," the woman beside him replied. I took out the receipt, held it up. "This exists, which means the system can still hear you." The room went quiet. Hope is loud when it first arrives. That's when the power went out, not just in the basement, in the block, in the district. Phones died, emergency lights failed. Darkness settled in, thick and intentional. A voice echoed from the stairwell. "This area is being stabilized," it said. "Calm, neutral, administrative. Please remain where you are." The woman from the archive grabbed my arm. "They're closing it," she whispered. "Once a district hits zero visibility, it never comes back." People stood. Panic edged in. I raised my voice. "Talk," I said. "All of you, at once." They did. The sound filled the space, chaotic, human, impossible to summarize. Somewhere above us, something broke. A light flickered back on, then another. Phones vibrated to life. Outside, a siren started, and this time, it didn't cut off. The voice in the stairwell went silent. The woman from the archive looked at me, breathless. "They can't consolidate noise," she said. "No, but they'll try to contain it." On my phone, a new alert appeared. Reclassification in progress. District 7 was being reconsidered, not restored, not yet, but no longer zero. I looked around the room, at people who had been administratively quiet for years. "Get ready," I said. "They're going to ask questions." The woman nodded. "And this time," she said, "we file everything." The city responded the only way it knew how, with paperwork. By morning, District 7 existed again, technically. A thin outline returned to the zoning map. A temporary label appeared in gray text. Area under review. Not restored, not erased. Suspended between recognition and denial. That was worse than nothing. The woman from the archive met me at the edge of the district as daylight crept back into streets that hadn't fully trusted the dark for years. "They're sending auditors," she said, "not listeners." I nodded. Auditors don't hear people, they hear discrepancies. "And discrepancies can be resolved," she said. I looked at the buildings around us. Windows opening, people standing longer in doorways, like they weren't sure whether the city was ready to see them again. "They'll try to measure you back into silence," I said. Inside City Hall, the meeting was already underway when I arrived. Charts, graphs, complaint ratios projected on a screen. A man in a tailored suit gestured at the data. "We're seeing an unusual spike in activity from a previously consolidated zone. This suggests contamination." "Or memory," I said, stepping forward. Heads turned. My supervisor closed her eyes briefly. "You're not assigned to this," she said. "I was assigned to missing persons. This district qualified." The man smiled politely. District 7 was never missing. It was redistributed for efficiency. People don't redistribute. They're displaced. Murmurs spread. I placed the notebook on the table. Receipts, handwritten statements, names. Not digitized, not summarized. Raw. You optimized complaints out of existence. You didn't solve anything. You just stopped recording the cost. The man's smile thinned. "This is anecdotal." "No," I said. "It's collective." He tapped the screen. "We can stabilize this again, quietly." "That won't work anymore," the woman from the archive said, stepping in beside me. She laid down a stack of folders. Every report filed overnight. Noise, transit failures, emergency delays, utility outages. Hundreds. Filed by hand, copied, distributed. redundancy everywhere. The man stared at the pile. "You're overwhelming the system," he said. "That's what it's for," I replied. He turned to my supervisor. "Control this." She didn't answer. Instead, she looked at me. Really looked. "How long before they do this somewhere else?" she asked. I didn't hesitate. They already have. Silence followed. The meeting adjourned without resolution. That was a victory. Not the loud kind, the kind that prevents a quiet ending. By the end of the week, District 7 had streetlights again. Not all of them, enough to break the pattern. Buses returned, inconsistently. Emergency calls rang through more often than not. Imperfect. Human. The archive building was sealed, pending review, but the cabinets inside were empty now. The woman told me later she'd watched the drawers open one last time and then lock themselves for good. The system had decided not to remember what it could no longer control. I resigned a month later. Not in protest, in presence. I stayed in District 7, helped people file reports, write letters, show up to meetings that no longer pretended they didn't exist. The city learned something it hadn't planned on. Silence is easy to consolidate. Noise requires participation. And once people remember that reporting is a form of belonging, forgetting becomes much harder to justify. Sometimes, late at night, I walk the blocks where the lights used to vanish. They hum now, not loudly, just enough. The city still adjusts, it always will, but it learned this time that absence isn't a metric, and districts that never filed reports can still teach a city to listen. Scheherazade Stories. Tonight's story is about watching and being watched. The interview room was empty when I arrived. That wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the fact that it had already been booked. Room 3B, 9 to 9:30. Status completed. I checked my watch. It was 8:42 a.m. The booking system didn't glitch, not like this. Every interview left something behind. Audio, notes, at least a name typed into the schedule. This one hadn't. I went inside anyway. 2 chairs, 1 table, a recorder bolted to the center, red light off. No coffee cups, no fingerprints, no signs of use. Except for one thing. A single page lay on the table, blank. But when I lifted it, I felt the impression of words pressed deep into the paper beneath. Someone had written hard, angry, or afraid. I held the page to the light. Faint lines appeared. I told them everything. My pulse tightened. I flipped the page. Another impression, lighter this time. They said it wouldn't be written down. That was my first problem, because every interview was written down. I left the room and headed for records. At the counter, I asked for the interview log from that morning. The clerk frowned at her screen. "There was no interview," she said. I slid the printout across the counter. She stared at it longer than necessary. Then she lowered her voice. "You shouldn't have this," she said. "Why?" I asked. She hesitated. "Because the system auto-clears interviews without transcripts. They don't exist." "That's not a thing," I replied. She met my eyes. "It is now." My phone buzzed. Unknown number. The transcript was never created. That was the agreement. I typed back, "Who was interviewed?" The reply came instantly. Someone who thought silence would protect them. I felt the air in the room shift. "What happens to them now?" I typed. The dots appeared, paused, then disappeared. Another message followed. "They already told us everything." Behind me, a printer started running by itself. Papers spilled out onto the floor. Interview schedules, dates, times, all marked completed, all missing names. I bent down and picked one up. Tomorrow's date, room 3B, 9 to 9:30. My name was typed where the interviewees should have been. And for the first time that morning, I understood the real danger. This wasn't about what had been said. It was about what never needed to be recorded again. I didn't cancel the booking. That would have been the sensible thing to do. Flag the system, notify IT, pretend this was a clerical error and let someone else close it. Instead, I printed the schedule and folded it into my pocket, like a warning I wasn't ready to read again. Room 3B stayed empty the rest of the morning. No one came looking for it. No supervisor asked why a completed interview had no subject, no notes, no recording. The silence around it felt intentional, like a gap everyone had learned to step around without acknowledging. At noon, someone finally did notice me noticing. A woman from records stopped by my desk. I didn't know her name. That was the point. People in records rarely had names you remembered. "You've been pulling logs you don't need," she said quietly. "I'm assigned to an open case," I replied. She glanced around, then leaned closer. "There is no open case. That's how these start." "These?" I asked. She straightened. Forget I said anything. Before she walked away, she added one more thing, barely audible. "Some people leave interviews lighter. Some don't leave at all." I spent the afternoon digging sideways, not into interview content, but into absences, days when rooms were booked and never billed, recorders that showed usage hours without stored files, officers who had signed off on sessions they later claimed not to remember attending. The pattern wasn't in what existed, it was in what didn't. At 4:17 p.m., my phone rang. Private number again. "You're circling," the voice said. Calm, unhurried. That creates friction. "Who was interviewed this morning?" I asked. A pause, long enough to feel deliberate. "Does it matter?" the voice replied. "The outcome was the same." "You erased them," I said. "No," the voice corrected. "We concluded them." I stood and paced, lowering my voice. People don't conclude themselves. Some do. Others just need permission to stop carrying what they know. "And if they refuse?" I asked. "They don't," the voice replied. The line went dead. That evening, I stayed late. Room 3B was unlocked. That shouldn't have been possible. After-hours access required a supervisor code. I didn't have one. The lights flicked on automatically as I stepped inside. The recorder set where it always did. Red light off, power cable connected. I pressed play. Static. Then a voice. Not the interviewers, not the subjects. Mine. "I understand," the voice said. Steady, calm. "I won't repeat it." My skin prickled. The recording cut off. I checked the timestamp. Tomorrow's date. I stepped back from the table. Someone else was already living through the interview they'd scheduled for me. I left the room and went straight to evidence storage, where old physical recordings went to be digitized or forgotten. I wasn't sure what I was looking for until I saw him. A man in his 40s, sitting alone near the lockers. No badge, no jacket, just a paper cup of water held between his hands. He looked up as I passed. "You're early," he said. "For what?" I asked. "For forgetting," he replied. My pulse jumped. "I was interviewed," he continued, "this morning." "You were in room 3B?" I asked. He nodded. "They told me there'd be no record, that it was better that way." "Do you remember what you said?" I asked. He smiled weakly. I remember agreeing not to. I crouched in front of him. "What happens now?" I asked. He looked down at his hands. "I go home," he said. "And if I try to explain why I'm afraid, the words won't come out right." "That's it?" I asked. "That's enough," he replied. I watched him stand and walk out, unescorted, unmarked, already lighter in a way that felt wrong. Back at my desk, the booking system refreshed. Room 3B. Tomorrow, 0900 to 10:30. Status, confirmed. I opened the details. Interviewer, me. Interviewee, not listed. Notes field already filled. Subject consented to silence. I stared at the screen, understanding the truth that finally settled in. This wasn't an interrogation system. It was a release valve, and tomorrow they planned to turn it on me. I didn't sleep. Not because I was afraid of the interview, but because part of me was already adjusting. I could feel it in the way my thoughts softened around the edges, how certain questions stopped feeling urgent the longer I held them. That was how it worked. Not force, permission. At 7:58 a.m., I stood outside room 3B, 2 minutes early. The door was closed, the light above it was on. Someone was already inside. I checked the schedule again. Still listed as confirmed, still no interviewee name. I pushed the door open. The room looked the same. 2 chairs, table, recorder. But this time, there was a woman sitting across from the empty interviewer's chair. Mid-40s, dark hair pulled back, hands folded neatly in front of her. She looked up and smiled with relief. "You came," she said. "Who are you?" I asked. She hesitated, like the answer required approval. "Someone who didn't finish," she said. I stayed standing. "You were interviewed," I said. "Yes," she replied. "Last year, same room." "And?" I asked. "And I didn't agree," she said. That landed heavier than any confession. They said it would be easier if I stopped insisting on remembering, that my testimony was a burden, not just to them, to me. "What did you say?" I asked. I said, "No," she replied. I glanced at the recorder. "Then why are you here now?" She followed my gaze. "Because they don't like unresolved sessions," she said. "They keep scheduling me, quietly, hoping one day I'll come back tired enough." "And today?" I asked. "Today," she said softly, "they scheduled you." My phone buzzed in my pocket. "Begin session." I ignored it. "Why tell me this?" I asked her. "Because once you sit down," she said, "you'll stop noticing what you're giving up." I looked at the chair. It did look comfortable. That frightened me more than anything else. "What happens if I walk out?" I asked. "They'll reschedule, again and again, until you don't." I stepped closer to the table. "And you?" I asked. She smiled sadly. "I've been walking out for a year." "How are you still you?" I asked. She tapped her temple. "I write everything down, every time, even when it feels stupid." I pulled my notebook from my coat and placed it on the table. The recorder's red light flickered, then turned on by itself. A voice filled the room. Not mine, not hers. "Begin session," it said. Neutral, calm, impossible to place. The woman stiffened. "That's new," she whispered. The voice continued. "This session will not be recorded." I laughed once, sharp. "You're already recording." Recording is not transcription, and transcription is not memory. I picked up the recorder and unplugged it. The red light stayed on. The woman stood. "That's also new," she said. The voice paused. "You are creating instability," it said. "Good," I replied. I opened my notebook and started writing, not listening, writing. The woman leaned over my shoulder, reading along. The voice spoke faster now. Explanations, reassurances, soft language designed to smooth sharp edges. I didn't look up. The room felt smaller, hotter. "Stop writing," the voice said. "No," I replied. The recorder crackled, then went silent. The light went out. The woman exhaled shakily. For the first time, the room felt like a room again. "What happens now?" she asked. I closed the notebook. "Now," I said, "we see who notices the silence." Outside, footsteps approached. Not rushed, controlled. Someone knocked. Not hard, confident. I met the woman's eyes. "This is where they explain," she said. I stood between her and the door. "No," I replied. "This is where they have to answer." The knock came again. Same rhythm. Calm. Certain. The kind of knock that assumes the door will open. I didn't move. Neither did the woman. The silence stretched long enough that the system behind the door had to adjust its expectations. That, I was learning, was always the pressure point. Finally, the voice spoke again, not from the recorder this time, from the hallway. "You don't need to be afraid," it said. I opened the door halfway. A man stood there, late 50s, gray suit, no badge, no visible authority, the kind of person who passed through buildings without ever being stopped. "You're interfering with the therapeutic process," he said. "By listening?" I asked. "By insisting on permanence," he replied. "Some knowledge is only harmful when it's carried forward." The woman behind me laughed softly. "That's what you told me." He glanced past me, saw her, and his expression tightened just a fraction. "You, again," he said. "You were given opportunities." "I was given exits," she replied. "I chose doors." He looked back at me. "You understand how heavy this is," he said. "People come in here broken, afraid. They leave lighter." "They leave edited," I said. "Is that worse?" he asked. "Yes," I replied, "because no one consented to forgetting what they never stopped knowing." He sighed, as if genuinely tired. "We don't erase," he said. "We redistribute. We keep systems functional." "And if the system breaks?" I asked. "Then chaos fills the gap," he said. "People lose faith. Institutions collapse." I stepped aside, fully opening the door. "Come in," I said. "Explain it on record." He hesitated. The hallway lights flickered. "There is no record," he said carefully. I held up my notebook. "There is now." The woman stepped forward and placed her own notebook on the table, thick, worn, full. Then I heard footsteps behind him. More than one set. The man closed his eyes briefly. "That won't help you," he said. "The transcripts won't be admissible." "Maybe not, but they'll be remembered." He studied me like a calculation that refused to resolve. "You're choosing weight," he said. "I'm choosing witnesses," I replied. He nodded once. "Then this ends our agreement," he said. "What agreement?" I asked. "The one you didn't remember making," he said. He turned and walked away before the officers reached him. They never stopped him. That was the last lesson. The interview room was shut down by noon, officially from maintenance. Unofficially because the booking system started duplicating sessions it couldn't complete. People noticed. A clerk spoke up, then another, then someone who had left lighter and didn't understand why the fear had come back. The woman stayed. She testified. Not in court, not yet. She told her story to anyone who would listen. So did I. No one called it a scandal. They called it a misunderstanding, a procedural anomaly. But Room 3B, was never used again, and interviews started leaving traces. Small ones, in margins, in notebooks, in people who refused to put things down just because someone told them it would feel better. Sometimes, late at night, I pass that hallway. The door is still there, locked now. The light above it stays off. And every so often, my phone buzzes with a message from an unknown number. No words, just a timestamp, and the reminder that silence only works when no one insists on remembering what was never written down. Scheherazade Stories. Tonight's story is about watching and being watched. The report arrived at 3:17 a.m. That alone was unusual. Night reports usually came from patrols, hospitals, or neighbors who couldn't sleep with their conscience. This one came through the public portal, typed calmly, without urgency. Type of crime: homicide. Victim: Daniel Mercer. Time of death: 02:45 a.m. Location: 112 Brookline Avenue. Reporting party: Daniel Mercer. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. People file false reports all the time. Drunks, pranksters, people trying to force the police into noticing them. But this wasn't chaotic. It was precise. The address existed. The name matched public records. The timestamps were consistent. The grammar was clean. The system accepted it without flags. By the time I arrived at Brookline Avenue, dawn was just beginning to thin the dark. The house stood intact, lights off, no tape, no sirens. I knocked. A man opened the door. Mid-40s, tired eyes, calm posture. "Daniel Mercer?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "You're early." That was my first mistake. "I'm here because of a report," I said carefully. He nodded. "I know." "You reported your own murder," I said. "Yes," he replied. "I thought it would be easier if I explained in person." Inside, the house smelled of coffee and something metallic beneath it. Not blood, something colder. "I haven't been killed yet," he said, sitting across from me at the kitchen table. "But I will be." I didn't interrupt him. That was my second mistake. "At 2:45 a.m. tomorrow, same place, same method." "And what method is that?" I asked. He looked at me like the answer embarrassed him. "You won't find a weapon," he said. "You'll find me intact, just empty." I wrote it down anyway. People predict their deaths all the time. Terminal illness, delusion, guilt. But this wasn't fear. This was preparation. "Why report it now?" I asked. "Because the first time, no one listened," he said. "First time?" I repeated. He nodded and stood walking to the living room. He pulled a box from under the couch and placed it on the table. Inside were police reports. Mine. Reports I didn't remember writing. All stamped closed. Each one listed Daniel Mercer as deceased. Different dates, different years, same time of death, 2:45 a.m. I felt my pulse shift. I checked the signatures. My name, my handwriting. "I've never investigated you," I said. He met my eyes. "You always do," he replied. "You just never remember the end." My phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You're late this time." Daniel smiled sadly. "They noticed you came back early," he said. "What happens if I stop this?" I asked. He shook his head. "You don't. You just decide whether you're the one who forgets." Outside, a siren wailed once, then cut off. I looked at the reports again, at the dates, at the pattern, and for the first time in my career, I considered a truth I wasn't trained to handle. This wasn't a murder case. It was a loop, and I had been closing it for years. I left Daniel Mercer's house with the report still in my hands. That was deliberate. Evidence doesn't feel real until it weighs something, until your arms ache slightly from holding it too long, until you're aware that if you drop it, no one else will pick it up. At the station, I scanned the files. Every single one existed. Not copies, not anomalies, fully logged cases, archived, indexed, signed off. Each investigation ran for 3 days. Each concluded with the same summary. Cause of death, undetermined. Case status, closed. No further action required. And then nothing. No follow-up, no memory of closure. No trace of me ever questioning why a living man kept dying on paper. I pulled my own personnel file. The access request went through without hesitation. That was worse than resistance. Buried between performance reviews and commendations was a medical addendum, psychological evaluation, routine according to the header. I didn't remember taking it. The conclusion was short. Subject demonstrates episodic procedural amnesia following exposure to recursive cases. Recommendation: memory reset following closure. Reset. Not rest, not reassignment. Reset. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. "How many times?" I whispered. My phone vibrated. Unknown number. 7. I typed back. 7 what? The reply came slowly this time. Investigations, closures, resets. I stood and grabbed my coat. Daniel was waiting for me when I returned. "I knew you'd check," he said. "You always do. You said you'd die tomorrow, but according to these files, you've already died 7 times. He nodded. "And every time you close the case." "Why?" I asked. "Because the system needs it closed. Unresolved deaths pile up. They cause noise." "For who?" I asked. He hesitated. "For the ones who track absence." He led me downstairs. I hadn't noticed the door before, perfectly aligned with the wall, unremarkable. Behind it was a room with no windows and too many monitors. Each showed a name, a timestamp, a status bar. Most read inactive. Daniel's read pending. At the bottom corner of the screen was a symbol I recognized from somewhere deep in my memory. A small circle with a line through it. "What is this place?" I asked. "An intake for people who realize they're disappearing." I stepped closer. "Disappearing how?" He replied, "Not physically, administratively, socially, cognitively. The system doesn't delete you, it empties you." "And my role?" I asked. He met my eyes. "You make it official." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "You're the one who resets me," I said. "No," Daniel replied gently. "You reset yourself. They just give you permission." The monitors flickered. A new name appeared. Mine. Status: active. Time remaining: 22 hours, 41 minutes, 13 seconds. I stepped back. "What happens when it reaches 0? I asked. Daniel looked tired. "You forget why you cared," he said, "and then you close me again." Silence filled the room. "Unless," I said. He didn't answer immediately. "There's a way to break the loop," he said finally, "but it costs you." "What?" I asked. He turned off one of the monitors. "Continuity," he said. "You won't be reset again." "That sounds good," I said. He shook his head. "You won't be able to close the case, ever." "And you?" I asked. He smiled sadly. "I won't survive another open cycle." Upstairs, a clock chimed. 2:45 a.m. was getting closer. Daniel looked at me. "So, do you want to remember, or do you want me alive one more time?" I stayed. That was the first divergence. Every previous version of this investigation ended with me leaving the house, filing the paperwork, and letting the clock run out. That's what the reports showed. That's what the system expected. This time, I pulled a chair into the basement and sat across from Daniel Mercer as the seconds ticked down on the monitor. 22:39:02. "You've never stayed before," Daniel said quietly. "I know. That's why I am now." The screens around us began to behave strangely. Status bars jittered. Names blinked in and out like the system was struggling to decide whether they still belonged. "You're causing overlap. They don't like continuity." "Who's they?" I asked. He hesitated, then spoke carefully. "Think of them as custodians, not of people, of absence. They manage the weight of unresolved loss." "That's not a job," I said. "It is when loss becomes measurable," he replied. A new alert flashed on the largest screen. "Procedural exception detected." I felt it then, the pressure behind my eyes, the same sensation I remembered now from the medical report, the reset trying to assert itself. "You're starting to forget," Daniel said. "No, I'm starting to remember." I opened it and read aloud. Dates, case numbers, details I'd written down after previous cycles without understanding why. My own handwriting changing slightly each time. Sloppier, more urgent. "You knew this would happen," Daniel said softly. "Yes, I just didn't know I'd planned it." The monitors flickered again. A voice filled the room, calm and synthesized, layered from multiple sources. "Detective," it said, "you are interfering with a closed process." "I'm reopening it," I said. "There is no jurisdiction for recursive cases," the voice replied. "Then consider this a missing person, because he's still here." Daniel laughed once, short and disbelieving. The countdown accelerated. 11:12:47. "That's new," he said. "They're trying to rush it," I replied. The voice returned, firmer now. "You are authorized to conclude this case. Please proceed." I felt the pull, the familiar urge to simplify, to summarize, to reduce everything to a paragraph that made the discomfort stop. I stood. "No," I said. The word landed heavier than I expected. Somewhere above us, glass shattered. Alarms started, then cut off mid-sound. The house groaned like it was being folded into a version of itself that no longer fit. Daniel's monitor flashed red. Stability failure. "What happens now?" I asked. Daniel looked at the screen, then at me. "Now," he said, "you see what a death looks like when no one signs it." The room grew colder, not physically, conceptually, like the idea of warmth had been deprioritized. Names vanished from the screens, not fading, snapping off, one by one. "This isn't just me," I said. "No, it never was. I'm just the one who noticed early." I thought of the other names, the inactive ones, people who'd been processed quietly, emptied without ceremony. "How many cycles before me?" I asked. Daniel didn't answer. He didn't need to. The largest screen split into windows, replaying fragments of previous investigations. Me arriving, me asking the same questions, me leaving. 7 times. Then something new. Me staying. The system stuttered. Critical loop error. The voice returned, strained now. "You are degrading the archive." Good, it was built on forgetting. The countdown froze. 00:00. Nothing happened. Daniel's eyes widened. "I didn't," he started. The monitors went dark. All of them. The house fell silent. We stood there, waiting for something final, a collapse, an intervention, a reset. None came. For the first time since I'd known him, really known him, Daniel Mercer was just a man in a basement, alive past his scheduled absence. He laughed, long and shaky. "I think," he said, "you broke it." I wasn't so sure. My head throbbed, memories pressed in from all directions, unfiltered, faces, names, cases that never properly ended. "This isn't over," I said. "No," Daniel nodded, "but it's different now." Upstairs, dawn began to push through the windows. The system hadn't ended. It had lost certainty, and somewhere in that uncertainty was a question it couldn't answer anymore. What happens when the person who closes the case refuses to forget? The city didn't notice right away. That was the strangest part. No sirens, no emergency alerts, no sudden shift in the air that said something fundamental had broken. Morning came the same way it always did, with delivery trucks and commuters, and people convincing themselves that continuity was proof of safety. Daniel and I stood in the basement as the light crept down the stairs. He was still alive, not pending, not scheduled, alive in the ordinary, fragile way people are when no one is counting down their absence. "That's never happened," he said quietly. I nodded. My head felt full, like a room where all the drawers had been yanked open at once. Memories I hadn't known I was missing pressed against each other, old cases, familiar faces, endings that never felt like endings before. "You broke the loop," Daniel said again, like he needed to hear it out loud. "I interrupted it," I replied. "There's a difference." He looked at me. "Do you remember everything now?" I hesitated. "I remember enough," I said. "That might be worse." By noon, the consequences began to surface. Not dramatically, not all at once. A woman showed up at the precinct asking why her husband's death certificate listed a time of death that never happened. A clerk flagged a case marked closed that suddenly had no conclusion attached to it. 3 different departments filed conflicting reports about a man who, according to one database, had died 8 years ago, and according to another, had just renewed his driver's license. The system was trying to reconcile contradictions it had never planned to see again. My supervisor called me in. She didn't yell, she didn't accuse. She just looked tired. "You didn't close it," she said. "No," I replied. "That case stabilizes a lot of things. You know that now." "I know what it costs," I said. She leaned back. "And you decided that cost wasn't acceptable." "I decided it shouldn't be invisible," I said. She studied me for a long moment. "Then you can't stay," she said finally. I nodded. I'd known that part already. Daniel left the city that afternoon. No protection detail, no official clearance, just a backpack and a quiet understanding that the farther he went from places that measured absence, the safer he'd be. Before he left, he handed me something. A thin folder. "Don't open it yet," he said. "What is it?" I asked. "My report," he replied. "The one you never finished." "Why keep it?" I asked. "So someone remembers that it existed." After he was gone, the system adapted. It always does. The monitors didn't come back online. The intake room was sealed under a renovation order. The medical addendum disappeared from my personnel file like it had never been written. But not everything could be put back. Some cases refused to stay closed. People remembered conversations they'd been told were finished. Families questioned timelines that no longer lined up. A few names resurfaced in ways that didn't fit neatly into any database. Noise returned. Not enough to collapse anything. Enough to make forgetting inconvenient. I opened Daniel's folder weeks later. Inside was a single page handwritten. "If you're reading this, I'm still alive. If I'm alive, you did the right thing. If you're not sure, check whether they asked you to forget." I folded it and placed it in my notebook. I don't work missing persons anymore. I teach now. Procedure, ethics, the dull parts people skip because they assume justice is dramatic. I teach them how closure works, how systems prefer endings that don't require witnesses. And I tell them one thing I learned the hard way. Death isn't always when a body stops. Sometimes it's when everyone agrees to stop remembering. And sometimes all it takes to save a life is one person who refuses to close the file, even when the system insists the case has already been solved.